Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to a very interesting little video here. It's one that a lot of you guys requested to see and really wanted to see what would happen. As for myself as well, I want to see what this shell can actually do with what we're about to put it through, because I think we're going to see some really good performance. So for today, we actually have a penetration test to run. So as for the ammunition I've got out here today, I brought out some of the Salt Creek triple threat shells. These ones are the 12 gauge, 3-inch, 2-ounce load of number 4 TSS shot, moving about 1250 feet per second. So definitely a very stout load with being number 4 TSS shot. You're going to be carrying a pretty good amount of energy down there at whatever you're shooting at. Now we've done several pattern tests with this ammo and it's done fantastic, but I think everybody also wanted to see a penetration test to see, well, what kind of energy do we have? What kind of penetration do we have? And how might it actually perform if you're actually trying to hunt with it a little bit. So that's what we're going to test today, see how much penetration we can actually get out of these. And as for the setup real quick that we're going to be shooting them through, I've got the Remington 1187 here with the stock full choke, which did very well as for a pattern that we tested a little while back, but that doesn't really matter for today. But our setup is the 1187 here with the full choke. So as for our test today, unfortunately, I don't have ballistics gel. I really wish I did for tests like this, but I think what we've got today is still going to suffice for us. So I have a total of 8 1-gallon water jugs set up down here. I think 8 jugs should be more than enough for what we're going to see out of penetration, but I went with what I thought would be extra to give us that safe zone, so maybe we can actually catch some of these pellets. So as for a distance, I figured, sure, we could shoot them at kind of point blank range, 10 steps, something like that, and get what we get, but how realistic is that in a hunting scenario? So I started looking, and I would say that with this number 4 TSS, if you're hunting foxes or coyotes or something, 60 yards is about the safe max distance that I would ever want to push these. Could they take something like that at farther distances? Quite possibly so, but I think 60 yards is where the cutoff for a lot of people using these shells is going to be. So I figured 60 yards is a little bit far. We're not going to get a ton of pellets actually hitting our jugs at that distance, I don't think. I could be wrong, but I don't know. So I figured we'll split the difference. We won't go point blank. We won't go full on 60 yards. So I have the jug set up at 30 yards. I think that 30 to 40 yard window is probably going to be pretty realistic in a normal hunting scenario and the shot you might be able to take. And of course I do have the chronograph as well, so we'll be able to see our speed and hopefully calculate maybe a little bit of energy and see what we're actually moving as far as energy goes. But either way, I think that's enough talking by now. So let's get you guys a view of these jugs and take our shot and just see what kind of energy and penetration we can actually get here. Okay, so that round gave us 1116 through our chronograph. The box claims 1250, but I think that is pretty much right where they're at out of my setup anyway. This is the second or third time we've seen a velocity in the 1100s. And I mean, 1116 for TSS 4s, that's going to be more than enough energy for you within any reasonable distance. And I will edit myself in to go over some energy numbers if I can calculate up maybe what kind of per pellet energy we actually have here. Okay, so I went back afterwards and weighed these pellets individually and found that they weighed right at 5 grains apiece for weight. So I plugged that number into a ballistic energy calculator here and got right at 14 foot-pounds of muzzle energy per pellet. So now if we go over here to the Salt Creek website and pull up these triple threat number 4 shells here and scroll down, we can see how many pellets are actually in this loading, which comes out to be right at 166 pellets. So now we can actually calculate our total muzzle energy potential out of this shell. So if we multiply our 166 pellets here by 14 foot-pounds of muzzle energy per pellet, that comes out to a total potential muzzle energy of right about 2,324 foot-pounds. Now obviously out at 30 yards that's going to be a little bit less, but not much. And obviously we're not going to be hitting what we're aiming at with every single pellet in the load necessarily, but even if we cut that in half or so to say 1,100 or 1,200 foot-pounds of energy that is actually going to be hitting your target at 30 to 40 yards, that's still a tremendous amount of energy being dumped downrange. All right, so what do we have here as far as our penetration goes? We definitely had a good amount of shock, that's for sure, out of these jugs. Now, we have 7 of them actually on the table here, but number 1 is actually kind of blown off over in this direction down here. And we had a nice centered up hit there, and clearly it blew through that one completely, blowing it wide open. Definitely good amount of energy dump there, and jug number 1 completely destroyed. All right, jug number 2 here, still nice entry there with a bunch of those pellets, split the side wide open, and we actually sound like we have a couple of those pellets down in there, which we'll look at here in a minute. But we definitely had a bunch of them continue on into jug number 3 here. Didn't blow the jug wide open, but still, we had several of them go all the way through jug number 3 as well. And it sounds like we have quite a few in that jug as well, which we'll take a look at here in a minute. But now we're looking at jug number 4 here, and we still had some of them enter into the 4th jug. And yep, there's a few of them in there. Now, did they come out the back? I'm not seeing any holes out of the back here of jug number 4. And jug number 5 is still completely full on water. Same with jug number 6 and number 7 and 8 here, which are some Utz party mix containers. Definitely blew the lids off from the sheer amount of energy getting forced back into them and completely split the whole top of the jug open. So we were still carrying a bunch of energy to getting forced through this whole line of jugs. So let me pour these first, well, technically jug number 2 through number 4 out here and get all the pellets. And we'll take a look and see how many we caught and what they look like. But either way, it looks like 4 jugs worth of penetration is what you're going to get, which is more than enough at 30 yards for any kind of predators or anything like that. It would absolutely get the job done for you. So let's take a look at these pellets. All right, here's our nice, perfectly shiny round TSS number 4s here. I didn't even bother to count that, but that's probably, I don't know, 40 pellets worth there. And a lot of those came out of jug number 3 with a few in jug number 4 as well. I did lose a couple of them as I was pouring them out, so there might have been 45, 50 pellets, something like that, that we caught within jugs 2, 3, and 4. But either way, these are nice, shiny, perfectly round TSS pellets there. And even just like 1 or 2 of these in your hand, you can definitely feel the density and the weight of them. So definitely pretty interesting to see here, that's for sure. But either way, we clearly had a good amount of energy, good amount of penetration, and that would absolutely not feel great on any fox, coyote, groundhog, and maybe even hog or deer as well, depending on your situation anyway. And here's what the wad looked like real quick if anybody was curious. It was actually sitting right down here at the 30-yard little table I have set up for the jugs. Looks perfectly fine, nothing out of the ordinary, no rips, tears. It opened up pretty much perfectly even. Just the little cork piece down there in the bottom looks perfectly fine, so definitely nothing to take note of here as far as the wad goes. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about that test right there? Definitely some very interesting information. And to see a number 4 shot penetrate through 4 jugs worth of water, that is going to be absolutely devastating on any kind of vermin or predator or anything like that. Now, water in jugs is not the perfect medium to substitute for one of those animals, but it will at least give us a somewhat idea or reference point. And clearly, it would absolutely hammer whatever you're hitting with it, that's for sure. But as always, leave your thoughts about it in the comments. Is that about what you were expecting as for penetration? Or are you a little bit surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any shells like this or the Salt Creek triple threat shells in general? And what would you hunt with these kind of shells? Would you keep it anything from like say groundhogs up to coyotes, or would you take it out and try it on a deer or hog? Let me know what you would use a shell like this for, because we definitely saw some pretty good performance today. But with that being said, I've now got a range to clean up out here with a ton of pieces of plastic all over the place, so I'm going to get to doing that. We've got a bunch more videos coming y'all's way, so stay tuned because there's plenty more new stuff and interesting stuff coming. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested, but I'm gonna get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.